DPD man's just been and dropped off a parcel. I know what's in it, but you don't. I'm going to open this up. I have broken the tape, but we're going to have a look and see what's inside. There's a brown box. Very exciting. There's another brown box. Very exciting. We'll leave that one. We'll park that there. First brown box is this ViFly WhoopStor 3. This is a 1S 6 battery charger that can be powered off of. Oh, there we have it. It can be powered off of USB-C, a barrel jack, or an XT60. And it will charge up to 6 BT 2.0 1S batteries. You can see there all 6 connectors. So we have that. Let's get that plugged in. That comes with. Let's see what it comes with. It comes with some bags. In this first bag, we have a USB-C cable, and we also have a bag of. They're like little extensions for the 2-pin plugs. So that's kind of cool, and a little thank you card and stuff. Right, so we have that. Now, for those of you who know what this is for, you probably know what's coming. Now, I've never had one of these things before, so I'm hoping that this will be a lot of fun. Second box. One. Look at that. It's so tiny. That is a 1S 550 milliamp hour, 3.7 volts, so normal LiPo. 2.04 watt hour DOGCOM battery. So let's use my teeth and get some of these out and plug them into the charger. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Apparently I've got 6 of those. So let's unwrap 6 of these. So good for your teeth. Do you know what I'm going to use? I've got these, I might as well use these. Is it any easier? Not really. I'm sure it's less harmful for my teeth. There is an extra little hook on the wall there. And if you guess what's coming up, you probably have guessed because it's probably in the title. It's probably in the title and the description, so you know exactly what's coming up. However, we'll get there first with these little things. Right, so what I'm going to do is plug in all 6 of these. Look, they're so tiny. Little batteries. 550 mAh, I'm going to plug them all into this. But first off, I'm going to go through this error input load connected device that supports fast charge protocol. Let me get a battery with an XT60 on it. It's charged. I think my computer does not pump out PD, so it's probably moaning about the voltage there, and that's fine because we can just stick this massive XT60 on it instead. Get that out of the way. Okay, so on the screen you can see there is, well, you probably can't actually. I'm going to configure this somehow for 4.2 volts across the board, and I want to charge this at 0.5 amps, which is 1S, 25, 3.8 volts, 4.2 volts, 0.6. Yeah, that's it, I guess. 0.5 amps. Basically, there's 3 settings. There's a current, by the look of it, which I've set to 0.5 of an amp. The overall voltage on here is 25.9 volts. That'll be the voltage of this. And then the target voltage is 4.2 volts. I would show you, but this camera is it's not very good at zooming. So I'm just going to plug in all 6 of these. That's 2, 3. What do you think? You can't see anything that's going on. Look, there you go. 3, 4, 5. Well done, Johnny. You can count. 6. Right, that's it. I think I just press go, do I? Start, stop. 1, 2. I should probably read the manual. Hold it down. Everything's gone red and stuff is flashing. And they're all at 3.8 to 3.86 volts. And I don't know if you can see, but they're all flashing away. You can't see anything. You have to take my word for it. I believe they're charging. So that's good. Right, the main event. The main event is this. Of course you know what it is. BetaFPV Meteor series. It's a Meteor75 Pro with the film still on it. I've never had a tiny whoop before. I mean, I've come close with that little XI20, but I've always done freestyle stuff or kind of the DJI stuff. You know, like let's get you a bit straighter. Like the Pro 3 Mini and or the Mini 4. I never had the Mini 4. I had the Mini 3, the Avata and all that kind of stuff, but never had a tiny whoop. So let's get into the box. There it goes. Bit of foam. We have a pack that contains 4 little props. Looks like a USB to J2 cable, or J1, J2, I can't remember the name of it, but that looks like it's the USB interface to go onto the drone. Some screws and a couple of, what on earth are they? Oh, the little wobble mounts, the little rubberized mounts in the pack. And then inside the box, we've got, oh, it's so cute. Look at it. Oh, there's nothing else, it's the instruction and some foam. That weighs absolutely nothing. There it is there. Tiny, tiny little thing. These apparently have had a few issues with the cameras catching the edges of the surround and it showing on camera. I can't see any of that on this. I mean, it doesn't look like it's going to catch, but I think the field of view is quite wide on them. The aerial does kind of flop around in there, that one. I guess that's not really an issue. That's the antenna for the 04 system. And then underneath, you can just about see that red wire. That's the ELRS wire in there as well. Now the batteries I've got, the only ones I could get were the BT 2.0s, but they had the cable on them as well. So we're going to see how that goes. Now what I've got to do is plug the adapter in. And I'm going to get BetaFlight up, and I'm also going to get the ELRS configurator up, because I want to bind this using my passphrase rather than bind it just to the one transmitter. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to attach that into here, like so, the cable. We'll pop that in the drone, make sure it gets around the right way. That goes in the back. There we are. And then we'll take my USB and pop that in there. And we have lit up. And the ELRS is already flashing, so it's in bind mode already out the box. Let's cut to a screen with BetaFlight on it and some other bits, and we'll get going from there.
A few minutes later.
Let's connect to the device, and it's found it, so that's always a good start. And make sure we've got everything set. I am going to have to bind this first to my receiver, so let me grab my receiver. We don't need that powered on just yet, but I will have to open ExpressLRS Configurator. Let's get this opened up and brought in here. We can see that 3.5.4, I think that's what I'm running. Device category. I don't know what's in there. I'll be very honest. BetaFPV, it's going to be one of the BetaFPVs. 2.4 it's got to be. I don't know which one though, so it's going to be one of the AIOs, just not sure which one. What we'll do is we'll use BetaFlight pass-through, and I will populate, just create this off screen, make sure I've got my password and my Wi-Fi hidden, there we are, and my bind phrase. I want you to have a look at my bind phrase. So we've got all that configured, and then we're going to select the COM port that it's on, and we're going to flash. It might ping back saying, oh, it's not an AIO BetaFlight 2.4 gig. It might not. It might not. Build error. Okay, let's have a look and see what's going on. So we have in here, exception could not open port 13 permission error. So it could well be that is because it's still connected in BetaFlight. So we'll disconnect there. Let's go back into ExpressLRS configurator and we'll try again because that was still connected into BetaFlight. There it goes, it's writing. So yeah, pretty good guess there. It's obviously a BetaFlight 2.4 gig ELRS, and it's taken the AIO version because it's on their AIO board. Great. That's now connected, or at least it's flashed with the correct info. So now if we connect back into here and I turn my receiver on, I'm hoping I might have to disconnect, reconnect. Throttle warning. Now we're connected. If we go into my receiver, I should be able to see. Let's get this sorted. Do we have a connection through ELRS? The answer is no. There it is. It's just connected. Hey, that was easy. I'm going to set my modes up. So in here I'm going to set angle, horizon and everything else. So let's go auto. Let's see if we can shut this thing up because it is really noisy. Acro's there. Angle's there, so we'll stick angle mode there. Then we've got horizon, so we'll stick that on auto, flick it. God, you can't shut this thing up, can you? So that's there. So that's angle mode, horizon mode, and acro. That's cool. Failsafe. Let's add in. What should we get? Pre-arm. Add a range. That one. We like pre-arm. I know it's only a Diddy drone, but I still like pre-arm. What else do we have? The arm. Let's add the range on arm, which is going to be that one. Disarmed and armed. Very nice. Okay, beeper. Buzzer off. Buzzer active is there. Let's set that. On-screen display, don't need. Camera control, don't need. Flip over after crash, we will set that. That is there. Turtle mode on is over at the left. So we'll set that one. Pre-arm already done. What else do we need to do? I think that's pretty much it. Let's save that. That's done. Right, next up, goggles. Let's connect the goggles. How are our batteries doing? 3.95 volts. They're going to take a little while. So let's connect the goggles. I have flashed my goggles to the newest version of the firmware. I will need to flash the O2 unit. So let's go ahead and do that next. The O2? O4 unit. Going backwards. Let's unplug that. Plug into here. Now I may need the battery to flash the O4 unit. So let's see if I can pull up the software. Consumer drones, DJI Assistant 2 for consumer drones. Let's get that opened. There it is. And on this, is it going to allow me to connect? There, it sees it, which is good. And we're on the latest version. Or no, are we? We're on version 1.00. So we need to upgrade to 1.00.0200. I don't know why I'm using a mixture of O's and zeros there, but they're all zeros, I'm sure. So let's do that. We're connected to the internet, it's powered on with sufficient battery, and we've got USB connection. Right, let's go ahead and flash that. Then we'll need a pokey device. I've made a complete pickle of my desk already. There's junk everywhere now. Right, that is going. Now there is a little bind button on here, which I'm going to see if I can spot with my useless eyeballs. Bind button, where are you? That's the AIO. It's got to be, whilst this is flashing, a bind. Ah, there is a little tiny button on the front there, on the front right of the unit. So that will be the bind button. We'll be using that in a moment. Right, that is flashing our batteries, slow and steady. Half an amp. Yeah, we're at 3.98 volts on a couple of them. So I should really wait until these are all fully charged, so we'll do that. And then we'll take this for a little rip. Right, it's found the storage. So I've got all of my storage up on the internal storage for the 04. Of course, there's no SD card on this because it is the... it's been dubbed as the 04 Lite, hasn't it? Let's now see if I can hold down the bind button. This may or may not work. Let's unplug, plug back in, press the bind button. Again, this may need to work off the battery. Holding it down. And we're not getting anything there, so I would have thought, let's just pick one of these batteries. Sorry, not battery. Let's take it off charge. And we'll plug that into the drone. And then we'll hold down the bind button. Yeah. Now we're getting some beeping. Telemetry covered. So let's have a look in the goggles. And hold the bind button down. Connecting to 03 unit. No, we don't want that. Let's change 03 to 04 Air Unit Pro, 04 Air Unit. There we go. Let's select that first. 04 switch. That has gone red on here, so let's... Right, hold it down now, it's red. It's very hot, I know that much. Right, so we're switching. I've held down the button. It was red, it's now flashing. And as always, these things get stupidly hot. Now it says connecting to 04, so I'll hold down the bind button. Can we get it? There we go, it's beeping now. Has that stopped flashing? It has stopped flashing. We're on board! Look at that, not that you can see. What am I doing that for? Right, we're on board. So we have control, we have connectivity on the goggles, we've flashed the firmware. We're looking pretty good.
Several months later.
Here we are, back in BetaFlight. Now let's look at the PID tuning, rate profile settings. I'm on rate 1. And looking at my throttle mid position, I'm setting that to 0.5 for now, and I'm setting my EXPO to 0. And what that gives us is a very flat, straight line from 0 to 100, where 0 on my transmitter means 0, and 100 on my transmitter, usually 101 actually, means 101 on your quad. What this allows us to do is have a very linear response, so we can find our hover point, and we're going to look at the value for that hover point inside the goggles. And the way we do that is on the on-screen display. All of my on-screen display stuff never really tends to fit on the display properly, and I know that angle is the lowest thing that I can see. So I'm going to have a shuffle around of all of this and put stuff in a place where it actually might make a bit of sense. It's the same with my 03 kit, it's the same with this 04. Everything just shifts off screen, goes bananas. So I think that's where about it should be. Where angle was before, around here, is around where the voltage shows on the display on the bottom right. And that is no good for me. This is the all-important piece here. This is the throttle value. Saying 69. Let's move that there. Low voltage, we'll move that right a little bit. I think that's about central. 69, rate 1. That can go left 1. That can go left 2. I want it central-ish. Angle can go there. There we are. And by the way, the noise in the background, I've got a little fan on the 04 unit because, of course, they get super hot when they just stood still doing nothing. Same with the 03. Nothing's changed there. The low power mode, I don't like it kicking in because it means it's already overheated and it's just not good. The throttle value you will find somewhere in here. Warnings. Battery current draw, battery voltage, crafting crosshairs, fly mode, link quality, rate name, dBm, throttle position. Here we are. And I've put that on screen 1, profile 1, throttle position, and that's what we're going to see in the goggles. So I'm going to save that now, and we will hop into the goggles. Let me unplug this. I can turn my fan off, which gets rid of that horrible noise. It's a little GC Life fan. These are actually really good. Really good. Now I'm going to pop the battery in and I will get you joining me in the goggles and we'll have a look at where the throttle value is. And we're going to look at where it hovers, where it's starting to go up and where it's starting to go down, and how far apart I want those endpoints, because that's going to come in really useful when we come to programming the Throttle EXPO and the midpoint. So it's plugged in. Pop it on the floor. Let's get you on board. We'll spin this up quickly so we don't get overheating anything. Hit record in the goggles. There we go. Now we've got JWhoop profile, M75 Pro. We're in angle mode and we can see a throttle value which is currently set to 0. If I increase that, you can see it jumping up. So I'm going to go and find myself somewhere to hover. Away from the ground, away from the prop wash. And we're looking at 39 going down, 40 hovering and going up. So we're between 39 and 40. Now the reason why you wouldn't set your EXPO on your controller is because you would only be able to have the granular output of, well, 1% on the controller. It's very jittery. So we're at 39%. At what point do we actually start dropping quickly? It's hard to say. 39% we're going down. We're adding a little bit. 39, 40, jittering between the two. Yep, that's where we're at. Okay, let's land that. So we know we're about 39.5, and we're actually moving up by the time we hit 40, 41, and we're actually going down by the time we're hitting sort of 39. But that's all really, really good data, and we can use all of that. So let's plug back in, and I'll show you. You can translate that into a nice curve for good control. Apologies, the fan has to go back on again. Let me see if I can move this away from the mic a little bit. It is a necessity. I don't want to damage the hardware. I like this thing. Looking back into BetaFlight, let's go back into PID tuning, into rate profile settings, and we're going to put the throttle mid at 39, and we'll put the EXPO at 0.5 to begin with, and this just gives us a starting point. Because it's connected, we can actually see where we're flying around here. Now 34% is the input, 38% is the output. And what we mean by that is the input on here, when it's at 0 is 0, and when we go to the midpoint on our transmitter, we can see that it's actually 45% on the BetaFlight controller. And again, that is important. The reason why it's important is because we can set this to where we want it to be. Now, I want to set that midpoint to be, we said 3940. So if I drop this down to 20, you'll see what happens. Now, to get 3940 at this point, we're on this up curve in this center section. We really don't want to be there. A lot of people would say set your throttle mid to wherever it hovered. In this case, it would be 40. And if we were to do that, we would actually be on a slight incline on the way up. And what we want to do is have this in a place where we are close to dropping down off the bottom of the EXPO, and we're close to ramping up. The midpoint actually in between these two, which the up peak, and if I exaggerate this even more, you'll see what I mean. There's our kind of up point of the EXPO, and there's our down point of the EXPO, the peaks of the curves. So really we want to be somewhere in the middle of those two curves. We want that to be the central point. So what I'm going to do is take that down to about here, and then 40 is halfway between this curve and a little bit towards that curve, but we can flatten it out a little bit. 0.33, and as you can see there, we're just in the lower part of this sag, so we have an amount to drop down, which is in control on the flatter part of the curve, and an amount to actually start going up without it going too non-linear. So at this point, I'm going to say that 0.33 on the throttle mid, which means if we look at where the hover value actually is on here, we are not quite on the higher EXPO going up, but it's going to give us a nice smooth transition upwards. But we're also not on this hump down here. We're not riding that hump. If we were to have this up here at 44, for example, you see we're riding that hump just at the top of that EXPO, which is going to be, you know, a big difference between here and here. You can see the value jumping quite significantly from 43 to 37 in the smallest amount. So what we're aiming for is around that 40, to have sensitivity around this 39, 40, 41. And if I increase the EXPO, it increases the flatness of that curve, or it decreases the sensitivity. So here, if I'm moving around 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, I've got a big movement in between 38 and 41. Whereas if this was down at 0.3, for example, the difference on the stick here is not a huge amount. It's almost half the distance. And that's a really small distance. So I'm going to be bouncing around all over the shop at that point. Whereas if I increase it to something like 0.65 on the EXPO, that's more than doubled the distance I'm moving the receiver, the stick on the receiver, through that very critical hover point. So I'm going to call it there. I'm going to say 0.33 and 0.65 is going to be where I want to fly this thing, because that gives me the most amount of precision around that hover point of 39.5. Sure, I could go wild, and what would happen if I went too mad on the EXPO? Well, they don't mean it'd be very late coming in to get up on this power curve if I need it, and I've got to move the stick a long way, and the same this way. I've got a long way to move before I start to reduce the throttle, and then I've got a really big dip down here, which is going to be, it's a lot to take on board. So, but again, this is all preference. This is what you prefer. It's highly subjective. It's that word again. Right, let's save it for that. Well, let's save it there, in fact, and we'll go for a little rip with these settings, and we'll see how that feels and see if we've nailed it. Let's get one of the other batteries charged up, smashed in the drone, and take it for a rip. There we have it. It's on the floor. I've got a battery in. It's powered up. Turn the fan off. There we are. So it's on the floor. It's powered up. I get the fan spinning because it's going to overheat because it's been sat there doing not a lot. I'm in the correct profile, my J-Whoop profile. I can see my throttle still there, which is nice. And we're just going to see how it hovers now. So around 44, 45. And I've got a load of precision around that point. So let's move the midpoint up to where we wanted it. and I've got a load of control now. See how many numbers we're moving around between 42 and 47 just to maintain an equal hover. And the more you see that number move around, the more control you've got over what's actually going on. And this is the reason why you can now see why we set that curve in a very straight linear line. It's because the throttle value on here we're seeing is now reflected, is different. We're actually seeing what's reflected on the transmitter, not what BetaFlight is doing. So we're getting that granularity, not just one digit between going up and down, but several. Okay, let's go for a little rip and see how this performs now. There's quite a lot of wind out. As always, I've got stabilisation turned off, and I'll keep you in the goggles for this view. We'll just see how it zips around the garden. It's a lot of fun. My goodness, there's a lot of wind. It's a lot of fun. It's the first proper time flying this in anger. How does it feel? It feels fun. Oh my god. Right, this is wow, this is fun. Do you know what? I think we've nailed that throttle expo straight away. First try. Oh wow. This thing is so responsive. This had no right flying like this. This has absolutely no right. Obviously we're getting bumped around by the wind and stuff, and it is windy, but this has no right being this good. Okay. Don't get too carried away. Let's try again. Past my lovely rubbish pile. No way. Let's see if we can make some kind of a lap going on here. This handles beautifully, and you can feel the weight over a tiny. If you're used to the analog tiny whoops, then I'm sure you are going to feel the weight difference here quite considerably. But for me, I can feel a bit of weight, but it doesn't feel. It's so far removed from even the cine whoops and stuff that I've had before. This is actually quite ridiculous. Oh my goodness, there's a lot of wind. God, it does go well though. Okay, let's see if we can do a couple of laps. Let's come through here. Try and be a bit more. A bit more controlled with my flying. Can I really call that a lap? Got low battery flashing. That's not really surprising. It wasn't really fully charged. I'll go a little bit more. Do one more little mini lap. Past my rubbish. This is crazy. I'm just processing that for a second because I'm confused by what just happened. Look at the size of that. I got little goosebumps. Telemetry recovered. Give me a sec.
A few minutes later.
We're back in BetaFlight again, and I was going to fly this thing with the standard rate profiles, but honestly, I could not get my head around them at all. I tried and I tried and I tried. They just weren't clicking whatsoever. And again, this is probably another Nick Burns thing, my current hero. I've kind of looked at his profile rates and I thought, right, well, let's try them in. And I tried them and they were a little bit zippy on the roll and pitch, so I've brought the super rate down. I've noticed they've just changed it to rate now. EXPO across the board is at 0, so I brought my super rate down. His are, I believe, 1.2 and a super rate of 0.8, same for pitch, and your, I believe, is 1.3. I can't remember, it might be 0.7, it might be 0.8 on the rate, it might be 0.9, I don't know. But anyway, I took Nick's rates, and I applied them, and then I tweaked them until I felt that the yaw was responding with how I was expecting it to respond. So when I go both sticks left, I want the yaw to be working with the roll, and it was doing that. I also didn't want to be having to smash the pitch way forward on the stick to be able to get some kind of progress, but I wanted a nice balance of somewhere in between. So I ended up with rates being 960, 960 and 1171. That works very well. This Throttle EXPO mid for me works absolutely beautifully. So if you've got one of these, give this a try and see what you think, because for me it works really well. I'm going to unplug this because it's getting smelly. You smell that? It smells hot. Why isn't there a mode? No, I'm not going to moan. I'm not going to moan. It's not a drone thing. It's a DJI thing, isn't it? These things just, you could fry an egg on them. Same with the O3. Same with all of them. They just get so hot. And I've spent ages designing sleds for these things to sit in, so you could cool the O3 units down whilst you're programming them. And in the end, I just got one of those, like I said. I don't understand. I've got another battery. This one's almost fully charged. So we're going to hop on with this, and I'm just going to see whether my flying skill has dramatically improved overnight to the point where it's become beyond what I thought I was capable of, or whether it's just that this thing is so bloody good. Okay, let's just find out. Let's do some flying around the office. Why is that so easy? This can't be right. Hang on, let's try something impossible. No, shut up. There's no way. There is absolutely no way. I don't really understand what's going on here. I'll be very honest with you. Well, I mean, let's just address the Throttle EXPO here. First of all, that's clearly nailed. It is very windy outside, so I'm not expecting this to deal particularly well with the wind, but it's dealing with it. A little bop there. Hang on a minute, I just flew through my lawnmower. In the wind. This thing has no right being like this. This has no right flying this well in these conditions. That's absolutely ridiculous. Hang on a second. Just hang on a second. This can't be. God, that wind is horrific. But you know what? It's taking it. Let's okay, let's no. Just no. There is no way. Hey everybody, if this looks like I know what I'm doing, there's proof that I don't know what I'm doing. Right, okay, that's interesting. When it takes a knock, the gyro goes into a bit of a it goes a bit wonk. Let's flip it over. Take it off again. That was all me. That was me crashing into the box. I'm going to blame that on the wind. Yeah, and the gyro seems to have taken a big turd on the floor. And now it's fine. So, I don't know, you tiny Whoop guys, you'll understand this more than I, but clearly when a gyro takes a bit of a knock, it sends it out of whack a little bit. I can deal with that. That was my terrible flying. Let's try it again though, because that was fun. And do you know what though? The actual crash recovery on this, it doesn't really interfere. It does its best. And I don't feel like it's getting in the way. I mean, you can see how windy it is out here, guys. This is absolutely ridiculous, but it's still dealing with it. Loads of wind, even coming in through. That's like a little wind tunnel. Well, that is unbelievable. Oh, he uses that word, unbelievable, again. Look at this. Look at what I'm doing. and tell me how you think this is not unbelievable, if you think I'm overusing the word unbelievable. My flying is not this good. Look. Shut up. How are we doing for battery? 3.48 volts. This is a high voltage one, so I'm going to bring that back in now. I'll just land it like a pro on the desk. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mr. Steele. You want an honest review? Final thoughts. As you can probably tell from face, I think this is exceptional, and I'll give you a few reasons for that. First off, let's just address the rates first that I'm using and the Throttle EXPO. I feel like I've got way more control with that than what came with stock. Stock is a very bland, generic setup, and it's not really tailored towards this. It will work, but it's super sensitive when you're trying to hold steady and level flight. To me, that's no good. I think with the tweaks that I've made, and I did use Nick Burns' rates, like I said earlier, and then I just tweaked those to my preference so that everything kind of met up, and I don't know, just felt like it clicked. Just clicked. I was flying this around the office fully expecting to stove it into something, and yet I was going behind the monitor through gaps that weren't much wider than this thing in its entirety, without crashing, flying next to my head, not being worried about it, just in full it was crazy. Thoughts on how it deals with wind? It deals with wind. It shudders and shakes around a lot. You're going to get that. It weighs 50 grams with the battery. It's going to happen, but it handled it absolutely fine. Once you counter and have to lean into the wind a bit more, it really isn't an issue. It will buff it around and bobble around, but that's just the nature of this size of drone, and I understand that. From a feeling perspective, how does it make me feel? I felt like a pro flying this around the office. I really did. And that's where I get the biggest kick out of this thing, is the ability to fly it around in tight spaces, around the office, indoors. I'm going to be chasing cats with it, at least the ones that don't mind it. Right, we don't want to upset the cats. We've got 7 of them, so we, have to be selective. There's only a few that like the drones. Certainly we'll be chasing the kids around with it, but on a serious note, it means I can fly indoors and annoy the wife when she's making sandwiches. For that, it's excellent. And I don't have a drone that I would comfortably fly indoors in the main house. Not even the XI20, just because it's just a bit too brutal. This, I feel like, hasn't got enough power to pull the skin off a rice pudding, and that's a good thing. It's not to say it doesn't climb or hasn't got any punch. It's got plenty of that. Value for money. £197 I think I paid for this. Is it worth it? It's worth this every day of the week. They are in stock at your FPV at the moment, so I did pay full price for this. They're a lovely team out there. They clearly all fly drones, and they know about their products, and that to me matters. They're not just a box shifter, they're into FPV themselves. So I've put a link down in the description below. No, I don't get any kickback off of that or anything at all. It's purely a recommendation, and they have them in stock in the UK. Simple as that. Next day delivery as well. Not that I'm pushing them that hard, but seriously, I appreciate a good company, and they're a good company. So value-wise, I think it's superb. Jello-wise, I didn't really notice anything, but I did flash the ESC on this, and I put on .19, which is the best for 1S. Don't go .21, I think, which is the latest. That's not optimized for 1S, so stick with .19 or 0.19. And I've gone with 96 kilohertz on there as well. It did help the Jello ever so slightly, but this didn't really have an issue to begin with, and I suspect a lot of the Jello issues are due to the props. It's being slightly out of balance, so perhaps get some HQ props, 45mm with the 1.5mm centre post, I believe they are, and give that a shot if you're having any issues, but honestly the ones that come with it are fine. And the video output, like I say, run it in the 4:3 format rather than 16:9 for a couple of reasons. One, if you're using gyro flow, make sure Rocksteady's turned off because you don't get gyro data with it turned on. Run in a 4:3 format because the 16:9 format, same on the O3s, is just a cropped version. of the 4x3. So you're not gaining any left to right field of view, you're just restricting your top to bottom field of view. And that's important when it comes to gyroflow data, when it comes to centralizing, when it's doing its automatic pan and zoom. You're going to have a better picture, more of a picture running in 4x3. My only gripe is that it doesn't support 2.7K at all, and hopefully that's just an 04 thing, and they might bring that out later. But I could only see 1080p and 4K. There was a 1080p 120, which is pretty cool. I was running in 1080p 60 for my recordings, and if I want to use gyroflow, I think that's a good setting for it. 4K does not support gyroflow data output either, so or gyro data, we'll call it that. So you won't be able to do the gyroflow stabilization. You will, but you'll be able to use optical and auto sync and sync points only, not using the gyro data. That's about it. It's tough as well. That's the last thing I've got to say. It's flexible enough to not have an issue when you bump into stuff. It might clip the props, but it's not going to damage anything. I'm really happy with it. That's it for now. Look, just if you're thinking about buying one of these, if you're sat on the fence about buying one of these, stop it. Go out and buy one. That's it. I'll catch you later.